we're going to start going through paperwork. And to do this, I'm going to have to get a little fancier with my Zoom application because I want to pull the different pieces of paperwork up. So do jump in and feel free to unmute if I haven't answered your chat question. And then I'll check it periodically.
Will you be able to send this PDF to us?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, absolutely. So what I'm going to be sending is a PDF that's kind of similar to this, but actually has links to the documents we're going to look at that are all publicly available.
Because I printed out this one that you sent.
Oh, great. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, you mean the actual PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
If it's not a problem.
I should be able to. I should be able to. If I can run a Zoom. All right. So let's see. So we have, let's see. We're going to start with the TWIC card. Actually, we'll start with quickly reading through this list. So when you figure out what you want to apply for, you have to tell the Coast Guard that's what you want. And you do that through their application form. But you don't just give them an application form. You have to give them everything else on this list as well. There's two times people apply. You're either going to apply right now, when we're done this, and then they're going to send a letter back and say, well, you need to test. Here's your letter to test. And then you can either go test or take a course. But most people will wait till they've taken a course and submit all of the stuff on this list plus their course certificates. They'll send it all in at once. And so when we work with folks at OCC, that's usually what we'll do is before the class, we'll go over all the paperwork with you. You'll take the class, and then at the end of class, you'll send all your paperwork in. One reason why this webinar, for instance, tonight, even though we're all sitting in our houses, we're not on boats, we can't go out and take classes in public. What you can do is you can start working on this paperwork or figuring out what you don't have. So in a way, this is giving you a to-do list, even though there's not much you can do at the moment. So we'll start with the TWIC card. So I'm going to try and share a different screen here. And so I'm going to share my Chrome browser, and we're going to start in the tab where I've pulled up the TWIC office. Oh dear. And so here we are. So this link here is one that again is included in the PDF so that you can find it. But I think if you also just type in TWIC, it'll come up. Now, as you see here, this page actually says Universal Pre-Check, but I don't want pre-check. I want TWIC. I'm going to tell you guys a really quick story as this loads. I went in to get my TWIC card. It's the same place as does pre-check. And I said, well, can't you give me a pre-check too? No, I would have to pay another $125, even though same fingerprint, same everything. Point being is it's really just about the same process. To go through the process of enrolling for your TWIC, you're going to come to this page. You always should start online because they're going to collect a bunch of information from you online, and they're going to give you an appointment date. So I'm not going to actually fill this form out, but you can see this is how it works as you go through. And it's also going to tell you what ID you have to bring in. And that ID might differ depending on, what type of information you give them. Because you can get a TWIC card if you're not a US citizen. On that note, though, the only license that we talked about that you can get if you're not a US citizen is the 6-pack. All right, so that's just kind of quickly showing you the TWIC card webpage. You will fill all this out, and then you'll have to do an in-person appointment where they fingerprint you, ID you, and then they're going to give you a receipt saying you came in. The receipt's going to have a code on it, and you can give that receipt with a code on it to the Coast Guard or give them a photocopy. And that proves you've had your background check, and then they'll go into the system and pull the information. So you can apply before your card comes in the mail, which can be nice if you're trying to rush things. One thing I can't show you on the screen because I'd have to fill out a couple screens of information, but know that in this application, there's a question they're going to ask. They're going to say, are you applying for a TWIC as part of the Merchant Mariner credentialing process? And the answer to that question is yes. So yes, you are applying for a TWIC card because you need a Merchant Mariner credential. That's the red book that your endorsement is in. So that can throw people off because it sounds a little bit like, are you in the Marines or something else? But yes, that's what you're doing. So that covers the TWIC card. Does anyone have any questions about that? Sounds good. Okay. So then the next thing we're going to talk through, and then I'll double check on my PowerPoint. I haven't missed anything, but we're just going to try these tabs. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the National Maritime Center website. This is where all the forms come from. So you can find them yourselves, but again, I'll send the link out. So up here, this is the website for the National Maritime Center, dco.uscg.mil/NMC. I go to this website all the time, but I will tell you what I usually do is I type National Maritime Center into my Google chat, or sorry, my Google search, and that's how I pull it up. But this is the actual web address if you would like it. Down on this side of the page, there's a tab that says Forms. I'm going to click on Forms, which actually I think is where I am right now. And then if you're on your phone, just know that these blue boxes show up at the top, and then your information's way down. So you are going to have to scroll down for your information if you're on your phone. But over here, we now have lower right, all of the forms we're going to need. And so we're going to talk through these. We're going to start with the application. So I'm going to click on that link. All of their links bring you to the most up-to-date application. Right now, all of their forms say 2021 in the top right corner. If you've say you've gone through this process before, you've listened to someone else talk about how to get your license, they gave you forms. If the forms don't say 2021, they're outdated. They did just renew all of their forms, and so you don't want to turn in your paperwork on an old form. So here's your application. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because we do still have plenty of things to cover, but the first one page and second page cover instructions, how to fill out the form. So everything you should need should be right there on the first two pages, but I am going to cover a few things that tend to hold people up when they're filling this form out. So you're going to put your name in. For anyone who's applying for their first time, you're going to use your social security number to identify yourself. Once you have been issued a red book for the first time, a Merchant Mariner credential, you're going to get a reference number, and then you can use that from then on. But for most of you, you'll probably be putting in your social security number. They do ask for an address here, and I like to remind people that this address is where they're going to send all correspondence, including your credential. For a lot of sailors, you may say you're cruising or you're working in one city but live in the other. Make sure to put an address on here that they truly can mail your credential to. Otherwise, that tends to be challenging for people to get a hold of their book at the end of this. At the bottom's the important part of what you're applying for. So say, let's say I'm applying for a 100-ton inland master. I'm going to say that I want an original officer license. You can see I actually clicked that box, and you can print this out and do pen and ink, or you can do it in a PDF document application like Adobe. So I want my original officer. Just to let you know what these other things are, qualified rating, that would be like able seaman or engine room, something like that. STCW is your international, including if you've taken basic training, basic safety training. And entry level would be if you're applying to be an ordinary seaman. So for what we're talking about today, you're looking to be an officer. If for some reason you're sitting in here, you already have a 6-pack, you want to get your 100-ton, you're going to hit, instead of saying original, you're going to say raise of grade over here. Okay. Or say 5 years from now, you want to go from 50 to 100-ton. Again, you go over here. So then down here, I'm going to describe what I want. So I want 100 near coastal or inland, I think is what I said. And then I think maybe it was Miranda asked the question about how about auxiliary sail. So I'm going to say with auxiliary sail. Okay, so you're going to write exactly what you'd like right there. Oh, Deb, thanks. Raise of grade checkbox for sail or towing. Oh, because it's a new, is that because it's a new endorsement? I've never done that before, but I don't see why not. Okay, thanks, Deb. I would say in this box, okay, yeah, Deb confirms that that's because it's adding an endorsement. I would say with this box, really think about what you want. Like when we talked through how you could get a 6-pack, an inland master near coastal mate, So you want to put all that down here. They're not going to give you what you don't ask for. Now, on the flip side, say you ask for something you're not sure if you qualify for. What the Coast Guard will do is they'll write you a letter and they'll say, Sarah, you only have 540 days of sea time. We can't give you an air coastal license that takes 720. Would you like to withdraw this from your application or submit more sea time? Well, that's an easy question. If I have more sea time, I mail it into them. If I would like to withdraw it, I send them a letter saying, Dear Coast Guard, please withdraw my application for the near coastal. And so the point of my story is it's better to ask for more than less. But you certainly can also contact me and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Does this make sense? And I could probably help you pretty quickly. All right, take a quick sip of water. On the next page, you need to fill out a bunch of check boxes, and a few of these kind of trip people up. The first one is about a TWIC card. The Coast Guard's great at asking questions that are almost double negatives. This one's saying that you are exempt from holding a TWIC card. Check. Well, none of you are exempt from holding a TWIC card because it's your first application. If you already had a TWIC card, you've already applied and you're renewing. For instance, I just put my renewal in. I didn't want to spend $125 on my TWIC card, so I checked this box. Now it's going to take them longer to process my application because I haven't done a recent background check, but they put that in there to save people the $125 if they, felt that they wanted to do that. The next thing is convictions and drug use. You have an option of saying yes or no to all these items. I like to tell people a quick story that the Coast Guard did a study to see whether people were falsifying information on this, because they can look in your records. Now, they don't typically look in your records, but they did pull a group of people and they looked in their records and they found several people who had said the wrong answer. They said no and they should have said yes. And they were convicted of perjury. So they weren't convicted of whatever their issue was, whether it was driving under the influence. They were convicting of lying on a federal form. So the moral of the story is it's better to tell the Coast Guard the truth, because honestly, that's what they're looking for, is they're looking for people who can tell the truth, who've dealt with whatever's in the past. And there is a second form you can use to outline your issue, whether it's conviction or reckless driving, and talk about what you did, how it happened, how it was resolved. And I've seen many people, even with fairly recent convictions and drug uses, get their credential. So if this applies to you, just remember that that it's better just to tell them about that, and there's a form for that. At the very bottom, you're going to have to sign your form, and if this is your first credential, you need to sign your form in front of someone who's authorized to administer the oath. So for a long time, there was a separate oath, a separate page, and you had to get that authorized. Well, now, if you see right here, box 4, it's a very small box. This is the oath right here. And so just so you know, because it's like, what is the oath? That is the oath right there. So you will sign this in front of either a notary public or at the regional exam center in front of the staff member at the counter there. The regional exam center in one way is easier because you just walk in, you get them to witness you signing it. They're, they may be close to you. If they're not, if you don't live close to a regional exam center though, a notary public might be much more efficient. And usually it's just trying to explain to them that that's box 4 here that they're witnessing you look at. What about at the prep class? That's such a good question. I have in the past kind of thought through, like, that would involve us getting our instructor to become an official notary, and we've just never done that. It's actually not a bad idea. Chrissy, I'm gonna pin that one. I really like it. But at this point, at least our instructor isn't a notary. But you never know. There could be other schools who have that, so it's worth asking. They'll usually put a stamp on this page indicating that they've done it if it's a state notary. And so depending what your state in, what state you're in, that will look a little different. In some states, they will stamp right over their signature, and in other states, they'll attach a second piece of paper that gives their notary information. But either way, you do have to wait to have somebody look at that with you. And then finally, the last page is an optional page, and it allows you to name someone as, oh, mobile notary services. Donna, that's a good point. I think we actually had someone in our building to do that for another purpose. That's a good point if that was added to the charge for the class. Yeah, there are mobile notaries. So if you're going to have somebody able to talk to the Coast Guard on your behalf, then you would use this form. I've seen this used a couple different ways. One is, for instance, I used to sail on semester trips with college students. I would be gone without internet or phone for 6 weeks. So I would have my supervisor, who is shoreside, listed as my authorized third party, so she could manage my license application for me, which was lovely. The other way I've seen this, and I actually spent some time working as a licensed consultant, where you can hire someone to follow your application through the process for you. I had a fabulous time helping people with their licenses this way, and there are a few people out there who do that. You can find them online. But say for the 100-ton, everything I'm telling you should be enough that you wouldn't need to seek someone out, but you can, and that's what this form is for. Otherwise, no one else gets any information about you from the Coast Guard. Okay. I'm going to keep going, but feel free to keep throwing questions in. So the next thing we're going to talk about is your medical certificate. I'll also probably just call this the physical, because it is a physical. The reason they call it a medical certificate is to harmonize vocabulary between US and international. So every mariner that's part of international standards has to carry a medical certificate. Really sorry, everyone. I'm kind of starting to have a dry throat here. This is a 10-page application. I'm actually probably not going to scroll through all of it because of timing and because it's, oh, yeah, it's a dry cough. Luckily, no one could get sick through Zoom. Thanks, Chrissy. So the application is 10 pages long. So even just because I'm scrolling slowly in my browser, I'm not going to scroll through the whole thing. And instead, I'm going to give you some advice. You have to have every page initialed by your doctor or medical practitioner, or they'll send it back. And I tell you this because I've worked with people who've had their forms sent back purely because initials and dates were not put here. So the Coast Guard put one of these boxes on all 10 pages because they were finding that the doctors were not reading the form. And the Coast Guard physical is a little bit different than most other physicals. So they wanted them to read the form. The only thing it's really similar to is a Department of Transportation physical. So if you call your doctor, you can say, hey, have you ever done a DOT physical? This is kind of like a DOT physical. And sometimes that helps the doctor know what you're talking about. Throughout this physical, though, they're going to be looking for your ability to serve on a ship. So they're going to be looking at physical ability as well as vision and hearing. The vision and hearing tests are often tests that a normal primary care doctor isn't going to want to give, because the vision test includes a colorblind test, which requires that you look at placards to determine whether you can see color. It's kind of a joke in that it's just a little picture book that you look through, but if the doctor doesn't have the picture book, they can't administer the test. The hearing test can start with them simply whispering across the room. If you pass that, you're good to go. Otherwise, you need to do a hearing check in a booth with headphones and all that. So oftentimes people find that their primary care doctor doesn't want to do this. If you have a good relationship with your primary care doctor, I'd say give it a try and see if they'll do it. That's usually easiest. But something to think about otherwise. And one area that I've heard great things about, there's a company called Concentra. They have sites all over the place. If you're local to the area, I've heard the one in Long Beach is the best because they see merchant mariners regularly. I went to the one in Santa Ana recently, and they actually have a nurse practitioner on site who used to work at Long Beach, so it took me 5 minutes to get my physical, but it took the office an hour and a half to get me in the back because they'd never seen the form before. But once I got back there, the lady filled it out in 5 minutes. So that's kind of the experience you may find yourself having with the physical. And certainly once you feel comfortable leaving your house and going to the doctor, in these times, I would say this would be something to get started on. The physical needs to have been done in the past year for your application though. So certainly I wouldn't get it now if you're applying in 2 years. There is, there's one other area I would say, I'm not going to scroll all the way down because it's probably page 5 or page 6, but you have to indicate medications or past medical history, anything that you indicate on the form as having had or experienced or taking, if it refers to medication, your doctor must comment on. So if you write, I broke my leg when I was 7, but you don't have a doctor who's willing to comment on that, then that, you know, well, you're going to make sure you're seeing a doctor who's able to or willing to comment on that item. If it's something like I had a heart attack last year, well, the doctor may not want to comment on that, and then you'll have to go to a second doctor for that section of the form. All right, any questions about the medical form? I'm going to pull up our next form. Okay. All right, so there is, under the medical certificate, be mindful, there's another certificate. It's medical certificate for entry-level ratings. You are likely not going to want to fill that out. That's if you want to be an ordinary seaman. It's a simple medical form, but it doesn't count for the captain's license. Deb mentions that one of the last pages the doctor needs to sign. There also needs to be a stamp. Yes, thank you. So there's a place for the doctor's office to put their stamp, and you want to actually get that stamp on your form. Thanks. Okay, the next form on this list is the conviction statement. I'm not going to open that up, but you know that it's right here, and it's a 2-page form that asks for some history if you said yes to any of those conviction items. The next one is our small vessel sea service form. And so this gets into documenting your sea service. So there's 2 ways to document sea service. You can either document it using this form, or you can have a company or organization print up your experience on letterhead. And so I'll show you the letterhead in a moment, but we'll start with this form. So you're going to fill this form out with your information, the vessel's name, official number, if you can find that anywhere. And so for a lot of vessels, you're going to be able to find that, but not all. And I will tell you that I had a client a while back who owned a custom built rowing boat that he called the Jolly Boat, and he had a bill of sale for the Jolly Boat, and he got his captain's license based on all of this time he spent in his Jolly Boat. And now he also spent some time offshore delivering vessels and things like that. So he had other experience, so don't worry about him driving around. But point being is if your boat doesn't have an official number, you should still be able to get sea time on it. But whatever you can fill out on this form, you should. Gross tons, again, you may not find that. We actually, at OCC, we do have a form you can use to figure out how to calculate gross tons. I'm not going to talk about that today, but you can reach out if you would like more information about that. Length in feet and inches, width, depth, propulsion, what you served as. Don't write passenger here, because the idea is that you are engaging in the operation of that vessel. So deckhand's great. You know, if you were out with friends helping them get their day, then you would be working a deckhand on that boat, right?
Sarah, I just put a question in the box, but it may not be clear. So there are times when I'm on a boat that I might serve as the captain that day. Another day I might be crew, and another day I might be the first mate. Can I just like do, you know, master / mate / deckhand?
Yeah. So question for you, is this a boat where well, how about I answer this? Yes, you could do / and that would be fine for this form. When we get to the letter, if you end up using the letter with letterhead, instead what you would do is you'd say master, 28 days, mate, 30 days, deckhand, 2 days, and you could type that into the letter. The form doesn't let you do that, so you could do / for the form. Okay, and then does the U.S. Coast Guard accept sea service from non-U.S. vessels? And then would it matter how it's reported? Great question, Miranda. I have submitted sea service from foreign vessels myself, and I've had it accepted. I always submitted it as a letter, and I always helped the owner of the vessel with the formatting of the letter. So essentially I sent them a draft and they returned it on letterhead with a signature. That worked for me. I'm not sure that you would want to use the U.S. Coast Guard Small Vessel Sea Service form, but you could try. I just don't have the answer to that. If anyone else does, feel free to chime in. But I would say try a letter on letterhead. Now, the other thing with that letter is to ask the company to use a descriptor that's common. So deckhand, again, is great, or master mate operator. Volunteer doesn't work well because they don't know. Oftentimes the Coast Guard thinks a volunteer is more like a passenger than a crew member. So I would stray away from the word volunteer. And I've actually seen, for instance, there's in Lake Erie, a sail training vessel, a lot of people volunteer on and get great sea time, and they've had to switch their letters to saying unpaid deckhand. So just some terminology there. If you chartered a vessel in Europe and don't have the certification number, you're going to need the owner of the chartered vessel to sign this letter. But if they want to put a different number in there, they could say, you know, Turkey's number, official registry, that's fine. So yeah, if you have to leave that blank or put in some other number, I've seen people do that and that works. All right. So that's our sea service form. Now, you're going to see that they're going to have underway service down here. And so, for instance, January, you could fill out this form and say, well, in 2005, I went to sea for 1 day. 2006 in January, well, I was out 0 days. 2007, you know, like that, and keep filling it out, right? You're going to do it for each month. Well, what if you've owned the boat for 20 years? Well, in that case, you're going to use 4 more of these forms so that you can fill out the form in chunks of 5 years. Okay. Donna asks, is it important to note unpaid? No, you don't have to say unpaid at all. Just sometimes the company doesn't want to call you a deckhand if they weren't paying you. And so that's where I noticed that happened in this particular situation. But certainly deckhand is fine whether you're a volunteer or not. Donna, great question.
I have another question. It's too complicated.
Right. Go ahead.
Okay. So let's say you were on one boat in 2006, but you weren't on it in 2007, but then you were on 2008. Does this have to be chronological on the form?
Oh, great question. No.
Yes.
So the form has to be for one vessel, but in terms of the years, you can skip a year. And even say you went out different years than February, that's fine. I think because it could start getting messy, I would say stick to 5 particular years per form. But you can skip a year. Does that help? Well, essentially, you can send in multiple forms for the same boat to keep it organized. If you own a boat for the last 2 years, can you claim it? Absolutely. So what you need to do is look at your calendar and think about when were you out on your boat, and that has to be 4 hours off the dock underway or more in a day, and then you can call that 1 day if it's 4 or more hours. And so that's great. Look at your summer calendar. You're off the dock every weekend the whole summer. Well, each of those 2 days per weekend you can count as days. And then if you own the boat, then the second page is they're going to be asking, let's see if I can get to the second page here, for a signature of either the person is testing to the experience. So if you are attesting, then because you're the owner, you'll sign it yourself, and then you're going to put your information in here, and they may reach out to ask for verification. For instance, the guy I was working with who owned the Jolly boat, it just kind of looked weird, right? This boat that had no vessel documentation. I just had him send in the bill of sale that listed his name when he submitted his sea service, and then we had no problems with it. So that's one thing I would tell people: if you own the boat and you're feeling iffy about submitting your own sea service, submit some proof of ownership with it, and that might just make you feel a little better about it, but you're not required to. They can call you up for it. All right. if you want to track your time on the water. Oh, good point, Chrissy. Yeah, there's some really great apps where you can actually track your time just the way you might use like Map My Run, but you're using it on the water. You can go back and then see where you are, how fast you're going, but also how long you're out there. That's a really good point. All right, I'm going to try here to pull up a sea service letter really fast. And I realize we just have 5 minutes left, so I'm gonna try and go a little bit swifter here. This is a sea time letter right here. So you've got letterhead, we have who it's from. This is how, you know, really written like a real letter here, folks. So if you need a draft of this at any point, let me know. But it's saying who I am. It includes my reference number here, the boat's name, the particulars of the vessel, the days underway, how many total days underway. And you know what, I'm actually looking at this and realizing I haven't submitted this one, and it wouldn't matter for me because I only need to renew. I don't need to add anything on my license. But if I was trying to get a near coastal license, this letter is missing the waters that I was operating in. So I would want this to say total days underway in near coastal waters. For instance, actually this was Long Island Sound, so it'd say total days underway in inland waters. That's important because if you're trying to get a near coastal, you need that. So I didn't realize that till I just pulled this up. And Miranda would be interested in a copy. Okay, Miranda, I'm gonna send out an email tomorrow, so if you just remind me by email, that would help and I can get you something. All right, so hustling through, we're gonna go back to the Chrome tabs I have here. And finally, there's a drug testing form. I'm not going to open it, but it's pretty simple. I do want to talk about drug testing because that's another thing you have to do for your paperwork. If you work for an employer, the employer and you are drug tested as part of your job, they will write you a letter attesting that you're in a random program. Most employers have done this many times before and they have a form for it. If they haven't, well, you can help work with them to figure that out. They'll write you a letter. That way you don't have to go get another drug test. Well, say you don't work on a boat and you need the drug test. I'm not advertising for these folks. I've just seen it worked for them well. So I just pulled up this tab. It's a company called US Drug Test Centers. You give these folks a call and tell them you need a Coast Guard drug test for a merchant mariner credential, and they'll send you to a testing center that is approved by the Coast Guard. So there are many approved test centers, but not all of them are approved. And so it would stink to go get a drug test, not go to the right place. Chrissy, if you're working on the interior of a yacht, can it qualify as a day on the water? If your employer will write the letter for you, then oftentimes it will count. Way back, I got some sea time as an assistant steward in the galley. And so you want the sea time letter to be written rather vaguely so that the Coast Guard, there are folks sitting in West Virginia reading this. So I would say if you can get that yacht owner to write the letter to imply that you did some deck duties, that would be beneficial. Does anyone have any drug testing questions? I would love to stay on this longer, but I'm running out of time. Okay, great. I'm gonna go back to our PowerPoint and see what I missed. Talked about TWIC, application form, drug test, sea service, the medical form. All right, so we're creating this packet of information, all of this stuff. Think of each of these pieces of paper, you're stacking them up and you're gonna send them into the Coast Guard. So you're gonna add your course certificate to that stack unless you intend to test in person at the REC, and then of course you don't have a course certificate. You're gonna add your first aid CPR certificate. I've noticed that, most recent American Red Cross certificates are now online and they have a QR code on them because they didn't design their certificate for the Coast Guard, but you can print out that digital certificate and mail it in, and that will work for the Coast Guard. Then you need to pay your fees. Now, because of the shortness of time, I'm not going to go to this website, but if you type in pay.gov, in the right corner of the website, there's a square that says, "Are you here to pay your merchant mariner fees?" ? Yes, I am. So you click on that and you follow through the form, and you can pay for your application and your issuance fee. You could pay for one or the other if you would rather not spend all the money at once. The application fee pays for them to evaluate your application and go through all your paperwork. the issuance fee pays to print the red book. I think it's, I want to say somewhere between $100, 120 to apply, and about 45 to print your book. The US government doesn't pay for you to get these things, and it does not pay for the office to go through your paperwork. That's on our part as mariners. So once you pay those fees, they will email you a receipt, and you want to put that in your pile of paperwork. Pay.gov is going to ask you which regional exam center you're working with. And so I usually tell people to list the one closest to their home. That way, if you need to drive there for some reason, you can, but you can email everything. That's fine too. So the regional exam center accepts your paperwork either by email or in person. And yes, Donna, the course certificate would take the place of taking the exam at the regional exam center. So you would not need to go in there to take the exams. Yeah, absolutely. And finally, submitting all this paperwork. So again, I would submit all my paperwork right now if I had the C time and wanted to test in the REC. I would wait till I'd taken a class if I wanted my course certificate first. So your application package goes to a regional exam center. They're going to process it. They're going to take an initial look. If you're missing something obvious, they'll let you know. Then they send it to the National Maritime Center in Virginia, who actually evaluates your experience and your looks at your background check and things like that. And then they issue the credential. So that's the way all of this works. You do not have to go into the REC to submit your application. It can be emailed. And the email information is at the bottom of the slide as well as in the PowerPoint I sent you, but essentially you need to put it in a PDF. It has to be smaller than 8 megabytes, excuse me. You can do multiple emails if it's too big. So what I tell people is this could be as simple as taking all your paperwork and downloading a camera app or scanning app and sitting at your kitchen table and scanning it all in on your phone. I've seen people submit their applications with well done camera scans. Of course, if you have a scanner in your house, that's much better. Go for that. And then you send it in by email. Now, the problem is if you email it, you do have to have found the notary to sign with in your town before you do it. So that's the one thing you have to do in person. Now, reason why I really want to hit home on the email is that right now the regional exam center is highly recommending that people email their applications in. They don't want people walking in person at this very moment. Once we're back to business as usual, and in your various state, whatever your stay-at-home order, if you have one is listed, then the Coast Guard would allow you to come in, but they do ask that you make an appointment to come in and do paperwork. It used to be first come, first serve. They very recently asked for people to make appointments. The appointments can be made. If you go to the National Maritime Center, there's a link to then find your regional exam center. But again, emailing it, it's easy. It gets it to them. They actually open your email and they print all the paperwork out and look at it and then put it in an envelope and mail it to the National Maritime Center. So the paperwork still comes back out as pieces of paper, but it saves you the trip over to their office and making that appointment. The one thing that doesn't go in this pile that gets scanned and emailed is your medical. There's a separate email for that. You send your medical straight to the National Maritime Center. They recently made this so that it wasn't being looked at by so many people to have some medical privacy, right? You send it right to the doctor who's evaluating it. And the other thing is it's often the thing that takes the most time. And so if you send it directly to the medical team, then they start evaluating it right away. So that's the only piece of information that kind of goes a different place. All right, I'm gonna whiz through things. That way those of you who need to go can go, and those of you who wanna stay, I'll stick around and answer plenty of questions. Chrissy, yeah, so you have 1 year after your exam to actually complete your 360 days. You do. If you take a prep class, then you have a year to submit your application, which means you can actually earn more C time in that year. You could take your first aid CPR in that year. You have a year to submit your course certificate, but after 1 year, that course certificate is invalid. However, if you want to go test at the REC, you need to completely meet all the qualifications. They won't let you test if you don't have the C time. So some upcoming classes, our Coastal Nav 1 and our First Aid CPR, I'll click over to the website and show you those. The last thing I wanted to let you know, so this is the first time I've done this webinar. We, as are many people, are trying to continue to connect with our communities using online resources. So for me, this is new, and I would love your feedback. And I know we all get a million surveys in our email. If you would consider the one I send you tomorrow an exception and give me just a little bit of feedback, because I'd love to do this webinar a few more times. And truly, it's a humbling experience to talk at my computer in a garage to 16 people. So anything you can tell me, I would love to learn from. And so finally, I'm going to click over to our website, show you these classes, and then stand by for any last questions. All right, so here's our website, occsailing.com. If you go to classes and programs, U.S. Coast Guard approved classes, this is where our exam prep course is. I will tell you that right now our current exam prep class is on hold. They're about 2/3 of the way through, and we need to wait to get everyone back in the classroom to finish it. But they'll get back in, and we're going to get them through the class, and then we'll continue our schedule. So this page talks about our class. The guide that was emailed to you is also linked right here. And then you can go ahead, and we have a little bit of licensing requirements here, and you can go ahead and click here to register. This takes you to our registration page. On our registration page, you can then see what classes are available by schedule. And so let's see. We're going to go to U.S. Coast Guard approved classes. Our schedule right now has 2 classes coming up this summer that are 2 weeks. So those are really intense classes that happen every day of the week except Sunday for 2 weeks. And then you test at the end. And then in the fall, we're going to offer a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday class. And so each of these are available here to take a look at and register if you're interested. I do have a question on the survey I'm sending out as to whether you'd be interested in either an online class that has the testing at our facility or a blended class where you do some of the work online, some of it at our classroom, and then test at our classroom. We don't have online classes right now. But I would love to offer them if there's interest. And so I did want to share that. So this is how you find this class. And then you can also look and find under our seamanship classes, we have our first aid and CPR class. The first aid and CPR class is primarily online with American Red Cross. And then you come in and do a skills certification, actually very often with Deb. And again, since that's an in-classroom portion and we are in California in a stay-at-home order, that class isn't going to happen until we're allowed back into the classrooms. But there is the online portion, which is really exciting. Nelson wants an online class. Awesome. Okay. Oh, Deb, thanks. So you're saying boat owners, sorry, I'm going back to one of Deb's questions. Deb, are you saying that boat owners should actually send in their proof and that it's not only as requested? Okay, we'll wait to see how she answers that. So that was a quick run through of our website, but certainly if anyone would like to chat more about signing up for a class with us, I'd love to talk to you about it. You'll get an email from me tomorrow. So then you'll have my contact information and you can bug me about whatever you'd like. It was so wonderful to share the evening with you. And I'm going to sign off officially right now. And again, thank you all, but I'm going to stay here for questions if anyone has them. Thanks again.